Hi, I'm Mariel.
And I am Jeruz.
Hi, I'm Non. Now, we will discuss Article 8 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, the Judicial Department.
We broke down provisions into parts and will discuss vital concepts and ideas relating to each part.
Through this, we'll be able to understand and absorb provisions faster. So let's start.
Let's start with the judicial power. The judicial power shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such lower courts as may be established by law. Judicial power is the power and duty of judicial tribunals to construe and apply the laws, controversies, or disputes concerning legally recognized rights or duties between the state and private persons or private litigations in cases properly brought before them originally or on appeal. We also have the compositions of the Supreme Court. Section 4, Article 8 of the 1987 Constitution states that the Supreme Court is composed of a Chief Justice and 14 Associate Justices. It may sit en banc or in its discretion in the division of 3, 5, or 7 members. Any vacancy shall be filled within 90 days from the occurrence thereof. Next are the qualifications of the justices. First, he or she must be a natural-born citizen of the Philippines, at least 40 years old, a judge in the lower court or participating lawyer in the Philippines for 15 years, and a person with proven competence, integrity, probity, and independence.
Organization of courts. The Philippine judicial system consists of hierarchy of courts. Imagine a pyramid with the Supreme Court at the peak. Being at the peak, the Supreme Court has the final say of what the law is. That's why it is supreme. The Supreme Court will also be the final arbiter of any justifiable controversies. They have the power to modify and even reverse judgment of the lower courts. The final decision of the Supreme Court are binding to all lower courts. Although their decisions are infallible, it is the duty of the citizens to respect and abide by the majority decision of the Supreme Court. Under the Judiciary Organization Act of 1980, we have regular courts, the Court of Appeals, the Regional Trial Court, and the Metropolitan Trial Court. The Court of Appeals sits en banc only to exercise administrative, ceremonial, and non-adjudicatory functions. The Regional Trial Court is presided by a Regional Trial Court judge in the 13 regions of the Philippines. Metropolitan Trial Courts are courts found in metropolitan areas, cities, or municipalities grouped together established by law. Aside from the regular courts, we also have special courts under the present law. The Court of Tax Appeals and the Sandigan Bayan. The Court of Tax Appeals has the exclusive appellate jurisdiction to review on appeal among decisions of the commissioners involving internal revenue or custom duties. The Sandigan Bayan was created by Presidential Decree No. 1606, pursuant to the mandate of the 1973 Constitution, which continues to function and exercise its jurisdiction.
Judicial power includes the duty of the courts of justice to settle actual controversies involving rights which are legally demandable and enforceable. In the case of Lopez versus Rojas, GR number L-25716, dated July 28, 1966, Lopez and Rojas were the main contenders for the office of Vice President of the Republic of the Philippines in general elections held on November 9, 1965. The House of Congress proclaimed Lopez as the winner for such election, but Rojas protested such proclamation, then instituted petition before the Supreme Court for prohibition with preliminary investigation against Rojas to prevent Presidential Tribunal from hearing and deciding the aforementioned election contest. The Supreme Court held no Presidential Electoral Tribunal is constitutional, emphasizing the judicial power shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as may be established by law. The Supreme Court stated the proper exercise of said authority requires legislative actions. First, defining such enforceable and demandable rights and/or prescribing prescribing the remedies for violations thereof. And second, determining the court with jurisdiction to hear and decide said controversies or disputes in the first instance or on appeal. For this reason, the Constitution ordains that Congress shall have the power to define, prescribe, and apportion the jurisdiction of the various courts, subject to the limitations set forth in the fundamental law.
So what are legally demandable and enforceable rights? For the exercise of judicial power, a case should involve legally demandable and enforceable rights. These rights are either derived or recognized by law. For example, right of a wife to receive support from her husband as derived from the family code. The obligation to give support as an incident of marriage is expressly provided and recognized by law. Another example is the recognized right of the creditor to collect indebtedness of a debtor under contract loans. It must be established that the case fits the kind of calling for the exercise of the judicial power. When there are breach of any given rights, our courts exist for the settlement of these justifiable controversies. But what is court? A court is an entity or body in which a portion of judicial power is vested, or to which the public administration of justice is entrusted. It is the authority of law at the appropriate time and place for a hearing of trial or actual disputes and controversies. The difference of a court to a judge is that a judge is a public officer, an officer that is named in his commission and appointed to preside and to administer law in a court of justice. The two terms are frequently used as synonymous with each other. However, distinctions exist. A court is an entity composed of one or more judges. It has a personality separate and distinct from men who compose or sit on it. A judge alone does not necessarily constitute a court, for while he is an indispensable part, he is only a part of a court. However, a court cannot exist without a judge.
One of the functions of the Judicial Department are to determine whether or not there has been a grave abuse of discretion. What is discretion? Discretion refers to the ability to judge between right and wrong, and which is sufficient to hold one liable for his or her own conduct. What is grave abuse of discretion? In the case of People of the Philippines versus Sandigan Bayan, it is defined as capricious and whimsical exercise of judgment as is equivalent to lack or excess of jurisdiction. For example, the trial court's failure to comply with the procedural rules constitute grave abuse of discretion and may subject a petition for certiorari before the Court of Appeals.
Amounting to lack or excess of jurisdiction on the part of any branch or instrumentality of the government. The judiciary is regarded as the least dangerous to the liberties of people for being the weakest of the three branches of the government, and yet the most important in democratic institutions because of its crucial functions. As Chancellor James Kent put it, where there is no judicial department to interpret the law, to decide controversies, and to enforce rights, the government must either perish by its own imbecility, or the other departments of the government must usurp powers for the purpose of commanding obedience to the destruction of liberty.
Let us talk about the independence of the judiciary. In the performance of the functions of the judicial body, they be kept from any undue influence, pressure, or control, not alone in the legislative department, but from all departments of the government. The reason is that to maintain the government law, and not that men can be assured only by a judiciary and dispensing equal justice under a system of law that is applicable to all alike. And it must be noted that the members of the Supreme Court may be removed only through a difficult process of impeachment.
And that ends our discussion about Section 1, Article 8 of the 1987 Constitution.
To be guided with the important concepts and terms in this specific section, let's have a review.
Remember that the judicial power is vested in one Supreme Court and in such lower courts as may be established by law. The following are under regular court, Court of Appeals, Regional Trial Court, Metropolitan Trial Court, under Special Court, Court of Tax Appeals, Sandigan Bayan, and Sharia District Court.
This court exists for the settlement of actual controversies involving rights which are legally demandable and enforceable. These rights are either derived from or recognized by law.
It is also important for the Judicial Department to determine whether or not there has been a grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or excess of jurisdiction on the part of any branch or instrumentality of the government.
Lack or excess of jurisdiction, on the other hand, is without jurisdiction. The court acted with absolute want of jurisdiction. There is excess of jurisdiction where the court has jurisdiction but has transcended the same or acted without any statutory authority.
Hope you had fun learning today. Until next time, bye!
Bye!